The most important characteristic that separates us is really the team that's placed together. I have actually 38 consistent years in the business approximately, and my two partners, they're young. We're going back to the old landmark of what the industry really represents. Talking about impeccable care and proficiency in the art and science of the embalming skill set, the professionalism in serving the families, but more importantly, the delivery of services.
We have many years of experience here at Preston Charles Funeral Home between Preston Charles, myself, and Camara, and through those years of experience, we've learned the right way and the wrong way to do things, so we use that knowledge to be as professional as possible.
We all can do every part of the funeral home business. Where a lot of funeral homes, you just have directors, you have just embalmers. We are a special group where all three of us can be interchangeable in every aspect of the funeral home.
We pride ourselves in the skill set of artistic competence in the skill of embalming. Everyone is not skilled in that process. You can become quite equipped in the knowledge, but the application is the key. And how you apply that is with meticulous patience.
Restorative arts is very important. This is the last image picture that they will have for their loved one. So when they walk in and see that their loved one looks like they're sleeping, they can be reassured that their loved one was taken care of.
Here at the Preston Charles Funeral Home, we serve whoever calls us. And that means from any economic strata and any background heritage.
Thank you for calling Preston Charles Funeral Home.
Well, it starts with the first call. Your interaction with the family is very integral to how the rest of the arrangement will go. Getting the information, allowing the family to feel comfortable that their loved one is going to be taken into care. We will make arrangements with you. Either you can come to the funeral home or we ourselves will go to the family. But our services don't end once we leave the cemetery. Families have a lot of, estate, court dates and stuff like that, and questions about maybe their pre-need for, future dates. And we always let the families know that they can contact us after the funeral is over.
My ultimate goal is God will be glorified in our work, in our community, and we're building for now, but the reward for work well done typically is the opportunity to do more. We stand ready to serve the greater Cincinnati community and all those who call upon us in their time of need here at the Preston Charles Funeral Home.
Preston, in a very demonstrative way, offered to this family the utmost courtesy, blessed understanding, timeliness. He offered to us, once we accepted the opportunity, complete loyalty and assurance that whatever our needs were would be his priority. He provided services 24 hours, and there were occasions late in the evenings when I needed to speak with him, when something came to mind for me that would better represent my loved ones. I need to recognize who Preston served in our family. Dr. William A. Dupre, who was known in this city as one of the premier educators, a Fulbright scholar. Judge William A. McLean, notably in this city as one of the finest attorneys and indeed the first African-American city solicitor for the city of Cincinnati. Preston was the right person for sitting us down, giving us a variety of approaches to taking care and representing our loved ones in the fashion that we believe they deserved at a price that we believe we could pay. I support Preston because Preston pretty much guaranteed me and my family that we would get his absolute best. And that's what we wanted. So we arrived to the notion if Preston couldn't do it, it probably couldn't be done.
I recently used Preston Charles Funeral Home about 2 months ago when my mother passed away. I was looking for someone who was going to be compassionate and caring, and I had met Preston and thought he would be the right person for the job. And he was. I was very pleased with his whole staff. They were caring and kind and patient. He explained everything step by step along the way, what to expect, what he was going to do, what his staff was going to do, and he followed through on everything he said he was going to do. He goes over the details of how the service will go, what all you're going to need, the cost. He lists them out. You have options if you don't want to use something, you don't have to. He explains everything step by step. When I called Preston, the first thing I told him is, I lost my mother and I want you to take care of my angel. That statement he never forgot, and he told me, I'm going to take care of your angel, and that's exactly what he did.
Brother Charles, the thing I remember about him, and I don't know if I'm saying this accurately or not, but it's the extra service that he presented. In other words, he played his role as an undertaker, but in addition to that, he went a little further to check with the family, and you could see him around at the service. How are you getting along? How are you doing? How are you? My wife passed, and I think I heard from him after her funeral, but just a phone call. Reverend, how you doing? You know, and that's the way he was. He went the extra mile, and he's that way. That's the way he serves. Brother Preston will do well, and he will serve the people, and he will be extraordinary in the service that he renders.
Preston has always been professional. He's always been polite. He's on time, and he's very patient. My father passed. My mother had everything prepared and paid for already. Everything just went very smooth in my father's burial. I think one thing that I love the most is that he made and prepared my father's body, and he looked so natural. We also used him for my father-in-law. My father-in-law's funeral was very, very large. That procedure and process was so smooth. Everything was just perfect. The most recent service that we used Preston for was the double burial that we had to do. And my husband and I put that together, and we called Preston immediately. He took care of everything. Went to pick the bodies up out of town, brought them back here, and everything was fine. I would recommend his service. It's not a doubt. It's not a doubt to anybody.
My dad passed away on November 8th of 2017, and of course they were the first people that I called. They were so compassionate in the way that they cared for him in taking him from the hospital out to the funeral home. They gave us our time with him. They were just so loving in the way that they honored him and honored us. And it was just such a, if you can have a pleasant experience in those kinds of experiences, they were just so amazingly wonderful. We had another death in our family on my husband's side some months later. We knew right away who we were going to call. There was no question. They take such great care in how they prepare you for the viewing and how they prepare the person who has passed on, that when you see that person, my dad looked so strong and well, and he looked like himself 20 years ago. I would recommend them heads and tails above anyone else.
When you have the death of a loved one or a close friend, that is one of the most stressful situations that an individual can find themselves in. And when you want to get some assistance, you want somebody to be able to help share the load and take some of that stress away. And I found that with Preston Charles and his assistance with the passing of a sister and a mother, it was very important to have somebody who had your best interests at heart. That was the first time that I had to experience dealing with the death of a very close loved one. And what Preston was able to do is that he quickly gave us an outline, as it were, as to what we should do and the timing of it all. He was there, he was prompt, he was very efficient with the information that he gave us, and it just helped the whole situation run a lot smoother. And that was one aspect of having to bury a loved one that we didn't have to stress over.
I received a call that my father had died of a massive heart attack, so that was unexpected. And even in that grief process, I knew that I needed to get a trustworthy person to get to my dad and get him back here in Cincinnati for me. And the only person for me was Preston Charles. Called Preston, said, Preston, go get my father. And even though he was deceased, it's like I needed that quality of respect to handle his remains. And so Preston did that for me. I would highly recommend Preston. There would not be a shadow of a doubt. I would not have to worry about how he talked with people. I wouldn't have to worry about his level of professionalism. Neither would I have to second guess his integrity. He is a person of high character, and he's a caring gentleman. I knew my father was in good hands with Preston.
Anytime that you are ministering in a funeral service, it is a challenging time. The family is grieving, the widow is grieving, the children are grieving. And this time of grief is a sobering reality. Yet Jesus calls us to that time of grief in people's lives. In one place, Jesus said, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me because He hath anointed me to preach the gospel." And then He said, "And He has anointed me to comfort all that mourn." Preston Charles Funeral Home recognizes that, and they are so skilled and so adept at reaching into the situation that people are facing and providing not only a professional business service, but also a strong ministry of compassion. That's always been a blessing to me. Anytime that I have worked with Preston Charles Funeral Home, I have found them to be a partner in ministering the love of God to that family in their time of grief, in their time of loss, and in their time of sorrow.
I have known Preston Charles for over a decade. I have seen the quality of his work, and I'm excited about the Preston Charles Funeral Home and how it is launching in our city. But also, I can speak to his character and his care. When we lose a loved one, it's one of the most challenging and traumatic times of our life journey. And I know that Preston Charles, because of his experience and his professionalism, the compassion that he has, will be able to guide families during one of the most challenging times of their lives as they celebrate the life of their loved ones. When families are going through a time of bereavement and loss, they want as painless of a process as possible. And so I know that his staff will be compassionate. They will carry themselves with a level of excellence. And then also, I think, lastly, their presentation for the celebration of life, I know will be high caliber because I've seen him do it in the past. And I know that now that he is leading Preston Charles Funeral Home, it will be nothing less than stellar service.